Good morning. Lovely to see so many familiar faces on the rather large screen in front of me. I'm here to spend the next 5 minutes or so talking about the impact of AI and data changes in the world of recruitment. Now, arguably, recruitment is one of the most important topics, or one of the most important jobs that falls underneath the HR umbrella. Yet, astonishingly, nearly a third of new hires don't work out. And that's despite extensive testing, assessments, job fit analysis, all the other things that you do. And we're still getting to a point where this cost of hire is enormous. So I'm going to ask someone to be brave and put in the chat what you think your average cost of hire within your business might be. It'll be interesting to see what some of the responses are coming through, because we've done a bit of analysis and work around this ourselves as well. If anyone's not quite brave enough yet to share your average cost of hire, has that figure, do you think, in your head gone up or perhaps gone down? Scots, 80,000 dirhams on average. Yep. 15,000 at entry level. I can see some more typing coming through. We will share this back afterwards as well. So 15,000 entry level through to 80,000 at the top end. We know ourselves the average cost within the region is somewhere between 22 to 25,000 dirham. Now, if you think about that in terms of your processes, the things that you have to do, all of that kind of stuff, it starts to add up to a huge amount of investment in terms of your time. Now, a recent poll from the Harris Institute determined the impact of a bad hire within your business. Just building on the screen there, you can see in front of you. So 41% of people asked or questioned felt that they were less productive as an organization. And 40% had an impact upon the lost time in terms of recruiting and training other workers. Employee morale was negatively affected. All of these things start to build up. And as well as that financial cost that you can measure, it's all the unassociated things that perhaps you can't really measure in real time that do have an impact upon the process. So all of this, and this increasingly complex costs and data, means that there is now a war to start leveraging all of this information. We need to try to be able to understand social intelligent algorithms better, make better use of the tools we have, and start to become more effective in order to make the recruitment process more effective. So what does that mean for us? In reality, it means an ever more complicated and confusing array of tools, platforms, systems that ultimately designed to make our lives as HR professionals easier, yet in the real world tend to make things much more complicated. The days of a traditional cover letter, perhaps to show that you can write coherently, the days of a CV, traditional job boards even, they're all long gone. And there's now an increasingly intense war to start to be able to leverage this data effectively. Some research suggests 45 million people per year change jobs in the US alone. Now, globally, it's not beyond the realms of reason to suggest that could be 4 to 5 times higher. And every time someone changes a job, it starts an ever more complicated process of events. Everything from interviews, assessments, job testing, fit tests, background checks, face-to-face meetings, onboarding, offer negotiations. All of these things take time and take money away from the rest of the parts of the business. And tools have been developed to try to automate this. Now, this is where applicant tracking systems have come in. And some logos will have appeared on your screen there that perhaps are familiar to some of you, perhaps not so familiar to others. But one thing's for certain is that over the last 2 decades, these companies that you can see here on the front of your screen have been leading the way in terms of how we leverage data in the recruitment process. Now, moving away from applicant tracking systems for a second, one thing that we can all relate to is that the recruitment process is not always the issue. It's actually finding those people in the first place. And unfortunately, according to Josh in the report, no real one solution fits. That unicorn isn't there. And what tends to happen is we rely on a variety of different tools, on a variety of different recruitment platforms to try to be able to identify where we can find that talent. And that's something, again, that we're going to have to work with. What in reality we end up with is a fairly fragile ecosystem with lots of tools interdependent upon each other, in order to make that recruitment process work efficiently. If you think yourselves about the job boards that you have, if you think about your LinkedIn usage, if you think about your internal assessment tools, all of these different things are working dependent upon each other. And that's something that we will need to start to see change in the future, according to Josh. So how else might things change? Well, we might start to see technology such as AI and VR have an increasingly important role in the whole recruitment process. And we at Biz have been at the forefront of that ourselves. We've invested heavily into this area and working with our partners across the region with Jensen 8, we've started to look at how we can use the virtual reality process in order to be able to monitor the effectiveness of recruitment, putting individuals into situations where perhaps they are stretched beyond their normal realm. We might start to see how they perform under pressure, and we can start to report back on those different areas to understand the implications that would have upon that person within a role within your organization. And finally, Josh's last piece of advice is to think about your end game. How can we start to reduce that cost to hire? It's all about looking at the different systems we have and make them work for you. Ultimately, we know that the technology is going to increase and utilization of technology is going to increase within the recruitment space. The aim of all these different platforms and systems is to reduce that cost to hire. And that's what we need to be working towards. We'll come on to more around this later on, but what I'd like to now do is introduce you to a colleague that's recently rejoined us to Biz. Rana Abdulal has come back after 3 years in exile to join as our new Manager of Customer Success, and she's going to spend some time talking to you about the talent marketplace in a bit more detail.
Thank you.